2001 Toyota Land Cruiser pulled into my bay last Tuesday. 4-speed automatic, original engine, original drivetrain. Nothing rebuilt, nothing swapped, just maintained. The odometer read 731,000 miles. The owner, a 67-year-old retired schoolteacher named Harold, hadn't been to a dealership for service in over a decade. He drove up from 2 states away specifically to show me what he called the Japanese way. He handed me a laminated card worn at the edges that his Toyota factory contact in Nagoya had mailed him back in 2003. On it were 10 maintenance rules, specific, precise. Nothing like what the American owner's manual says. Harold told me this. My neighbor bought the same Land Cruiser same year, same color, same trim package. He traded it in at 190,000 miles because it started burning oil and the transmission was slipping. I've never had either problem, not once. The difference wasn't the car, it was the maintenance philosophy. I've been under Toyotas and Lexus vehicles for 19 years. I've seen engines with 80,000 miles that looked like they'd been through a war zone, and I've seen engines with 600,000 miles that looked almost factory fresh inside. The difference is never luck. It's never the model year, and it has nothing to do with where the car was built. It's how you maintain it. Japanese Toyota owners maintain their cars completely differently than Americans do. And those differences, every single one of them, are why their cars routinely hit 500,000, 600,000, even 700,000 miles, while American-maintained versions get scrapped at 180,000. I photographed Harold's laminated card. Then I spent 3 months cross-referencing it with everything I've learned from factory technicians, Japanese owner forums, and the insides of hundreds of high-mileage Toyota and Lexus engines. What I found will change the way you think about your car. Let's get into it. The Japanese maintenance philosophy. Before we get into the specific secrets, you need to understand the mindset behind all of them, because without the mindset, the individual tips won't make sense. American car culture treats maintenance as a reaction. Something breaks, you fix it. Fluid gets dirty, the light comes on, you change it. You do the minimum the manual requires because the manual was written to avoid warranty claims, not to maximize engine life. Japanese car culture treats maintenance as prevention. The entire goal is to stop wear before it starts. Fluid gets changed before it degrades. Components get inspected before they fail. The question isn't, is this fluid still okay? The question is this fluid still optimal? That single shift in thinking from reactive to proactive is responsible for every secret on this list. Keep it in mind as we go through each one. Secret 1. The 4,000-mile oil change rule. American owners push oil changes to 7,500 miles, 10,000 miles, sometimes longer. Synthetic oil, extended life blends the marketing language, makes it feel responsible. It isn't. Japanese Toyota owners change their oil every 4,000 miles or 4 months, whichever comes first. No exceptions, no flexibility, no, but I mostly drive highway. Here's why this matters more than you think. Oil doesn't just lubricate. It suspends combustion byproducts, microscopic carbon particles, metal shavings, acid compounds from fuel combustion, and carries them to the filter. But oil has a saturation point. Once it reaches it, those particles stop being suspended and start acting as a lapping compound, grinding against bearing surfaces and cylinder walls with every revolution of your engine. At 4,000 miles, you're changing the oil before it reaches that saturation point. At 10,000 miles, you're running degraded, particle-laden oil for potentially half of that interval. I've cut open oil filters from engines at 5,000-mile change intervals and 10,000-mile change intervals. The difference in captured material is staggering. The 10,000-mile filter holds 2 to 3 times the particulate matter, and whatever didn't make it into the filter made it through your engine. The Japanese 4,000-mile rule isn't overcautious. It's the interval that keeps engine internals looking like new at 400,000 miles. I've seen it, repeatedly. If you ignore this, expect sludge on your oil cap by 150,000 miles, and accelerated bearing wear that begins showing up as low oil pressure warnings by 200,000. I've seen it happen exactly that way, more times than I can count. Secret 2. Transmission fluid every 30,000 miles, not lifetime fluid. 2 of the most dangerous words in automotive maintenance. American dealerships and owners' manuals frequently label automatic transmission fluid as lifetime fill, meaning you never need to change it. Japanese mechanics consider this borderline criminal negligence. Japanese Toyota and Lexus owners change automatic transmission fluid every 30,000 miles, every time, without exception. They do not acknowledge the concept of lifetime fluid. because they understand what heat and friction do to transmission fluid over time. Automatic transmission fluid does three things. It lubricates clutch packs and planetary gears, it transfers hydraulic pressure to control shift timing, and it cools the transmission. As the fluid degrades, it does all three things worse. Shift timing becomes imprecise, clutch pack wear accelerates, heat dissipation drops. The transmission compensates by adjusting line pressure, which accelerates wear even further. By 90,000 miles, lifetime fluid in a Toyota automatic is dark brown, smells faintly burnt, and has lost a measurable percentage of its viscosity index. The transmission is working harder than it should. By 150,000 miles, you're looking at soft shifts, occasional slipping, and the beginning of the end. The customers whose transmissions I rebuild or replace almost always fall into two categories: people who never changed the fluid, and people who changed it too late. The ones who change it every 30,000 miles, I almost never see their transmissions on my bench, almost never. Secret 3, coolant flush every 50,000 miles. Not every 100,000 Toyota's American owner's manual recommends coolant replacement at 100,000 miles for vehicles using long-life coolant. Japanese owners do it at 50,000, half the interval, and the difference in engine condition at high mileage reflects that gap. Here's what happens to coolant over time. The corrosion inhibitors, the chemical additives that protect aluminium surfaces, cast iron, rubber hoses, and the water pump from oxidation and electrochemical attack deplete. The coolant itself doesn't disappear. The color might still look acceptable, but the protection is gone. Once inhibitor depletion starts, your cooling system begins eating itself. Aluminium corrosion produces particulate matter that clogs the tiny passages in your radiator and heater core. Water pump bearing seals get attacked. The thermostat housing develops pinhole leaks. All of this happens slowly and silently while your temperature gauge reads perfectly normal. Toyota engines that survive to 600,000 miles consistently show clean, corrosion-free cooling systems. The water pumps look new. The radiator passages are clear. That's not coincidence. That's 50,000-mile coolant intervals decade after decade. Miss this maintenance and you're gambling with your head gasket. I've seen 4-cylinder Camry engines lose head gaskets at 140,000 miles, not from overheating events, but from slow, cumulative corrosion that weakened the sealing surfaces over years of neglected coolant. Don't be that car. Secret 4. Differential and transfer case fluid change IT or lose IT for 4WD and AWD Toyota and Lexus owners. This one might be the most overlooked secret of all. American maintenance schedules treat differential and transfer case fluid as nearly permanent. Japanese mechanics treat it like engine oil. Japanese owners of 4Runner, Land Cruiser, RAV4, and Lexus GX and LX models change front differential, rear differential and transfer case fluid every 30,000 to 40,000 miles. American owners often never change it at all. Gear oil in differentials and transfer cases gets contaminated the same way engine oil does with metal particles shed from gear surfaces during normal operation. Unlike an engine which has an oil filter, differentials have nothing to catch these particles. They just circulate. They coat gear surfaces, they pack into bearing races. They grind every mile, every revolution. The high-mileage Land Cruisers and 4Runners I've worked on, the ones with 500,000 plus miles that still drive like new, have owners who treat differential fluid changes the same way they treat oil. Changes are non-negotiable, scheduled, done. I've pulled differential covers off neglected SUVs at 120,000 miles and found gear oil that looked like black pudding thick, contaminated, and carrying enough metal particles to feel gritty between your fingers. The damage that fluid represented was already done. Those trucks were on borrowed time. Your differential fluid is cheap. A differential rebuild is not. Change the fluid. Secret 5. Air filter inspection every 15,000 miles. American owners' manuals say replace the air filter every 30,000 miles. Japanese mechanics inspect theirs every 15,000 miles and replace based on condition, not schedule. This matters because a restricted air filter causes your engine to run richer, more fuel relative to air, which increases combustion chamber deposits, raises exhaust temperatures, and forces your mass airflow sensor to compensate constantly. Over time, that compensation causes drivability issues, slightly reduced fuel economy, and increased wear on catalytic converters and oxygen sensors. More critically, Japanese mechanics also inspect the air filter housing and intake ducting for cracks or gaps during this check. A cracked intake duct upstream of the mass airflow sensor allows unfiltered air into your engine. You won't feel it. the engine won't throw a code, but unfiltered air carries microscopic abrasive particles directly onto your cylinder walls. At highway speeds, the damage accumulates quickly. Inspect your air filter every 15,000 miles. Replace it when it's dirty, not when the calendar says to. Secret 6. Spark plugs at 60,000 miles on Iridium. Equipped engines Toyota and Lexus Iridium spark plugs are rated for 120,000 miles in American service intervals. Japanese mechanics recommend replacement at 60,000 miles, once again half the American interval. Here is the reasoning. Spark plug electrodes wear down with each firing event. As the gap widens and the electrode loses its sharp edge, ignition timing becomes less precise, combustion efficiency drops, and your ignition coils work harder to fire the plug. Harder-working ignition coils have shorter service lives. At 60,000 miles, Iridium plugs are typically worn but not failed. At 120,000 miles, the ones I pull from American-maintained engines frequently show severe electrode erosion. Those plugs were degrading engine performance and accelerating coil wear for potentially 40,000 to 50,000 miles before they got changed. Fresh plugs at 60,000 miles also give you an inspection window. Pull each plug and read it. A plug that shows white or chalky deposits means the engine is running lean in that cylinder. Oil fouling means ring or valve guide wear is beginning. You catch these problems early when they're cheap instead of late, when they're catastrophic. Japanese owners treat spark plug inspection as a diagnostic tool, not just a maintenance item. You should too. Secret 7. Brake fluid flush every 2 years. Regardless of mileage, this is the secret that surprises most American Toyota owners. Brake fluid is hygroscopic. It absorbs moisture from the atmosphere through microscopic permeation of rubber brake lines and master cylinder seals. Over time, moisture content increases. And moisture in brake fluid does two damaging things. First, it lowers the boiling point of the fluid. Fresh .3 fluid boils at approximately 401 degrees Fahrenheit. Fluid with 3% moisture content boils at roughly 284 degrees. In a panic stop situation, that difference can mean the difference between solid pedal feel and a spongy, fading brake pedal, a condition called vapor lock. Second, moisture in brake fluid causes internal corrosion of brake calipers, wheel cylinders, and ABS modulators. The corrosion is slow and invisible until a caliper seizes or a brake line fails. I've seen ABS modulators on high-mileage vehicles that were destroyed from the inside by years of moisture-laden fluid. A repair that costs over $1,000 that a $20 brake flush every 2 years would have prevented. Japanese Toyota owners flush brake fluid every 2 years. They don't wait for discoloration. They don't wait for a spongy pedal. They flush it on a calendar schedule because moisture content increases by time, not by mileage. Your brake fluid is protecting your life. Change it every 2 years. Secret 8. Valve clearance CHECKS every 60,000 mile. This one almost never makes it into American Toyota maintenance schedules, even though it's in the factory service manual. Japanese mechanics consider it essential. Toyota and Lexus engines with solid valve lifters, including many 4-cylinder engines in older Camrys, Corollas, and the legendary 1GR FE V8 in Land Cruisers, require periodic valve clearance inspection and adjustment. As the engine wears, valve clearances can tighten or loosen depending on the design. Tight clearances cause valves to hold open slightly, reducing compression and causing accelerated wear on valve seats. Loose clearances cause valve train noise and reduced efficiency. The symptom of neglected valve clearances is subtle, maybe a slight ticking sound you attribute to low oil, maybe a barely noticeable reduction in power. By the time the symptoms are obvious, the damage is already accumulating. Japanese mechanics inspect valve clearances at 60,000-mile intervals on solid-lifter Toyota engines. If clearances are within spec, no adjustment is needed and the inspection takes 30 minutes. If they're out of spec, an adjustment prevents years of unnecessary wear. I've inspected high-mileage Toyota engines where valve clearances were never addressed. The wear on valve seats and stems was measurably higher than on identical engines where clearances were maintained. On a 700,000-mile engine, those differences accumulate into the gap between lasting and failing. Secret 9. Never let the fuel level drop below a quarter tank. This one isn't about a fluid change or an inspection interval. It's about a daily driving habit that Japanese Toyota owners follow religiously, and it directly affects how long your fuel system lasts. Your fuel pump sits inside the fuel tank, submerged in gasoline. The gasoline acts as a coolant and lubricant for the pump motor. When you run the tank low consistently below a quarter tank, especially below an eighth, the pump is partially or fully exposed, running hot, cooling inadequately. The result is accelerated fuel pump wear. American Toyota owners who habitually run their tanks to the red line average 120,000 to 150,000 miles before fuel pump replacement. Japanese Toyota owners who keep fuel above a quarter tank routinely see fuel pumps last 300,000 miles or more on the original unit. A fuel pump replacement on a Toyota Camry or Lexus ES runs $400 to $700 in parts and labor. The habit that prevents it costs nothing. Beyond pump longevity, running low tanks also increases the concentration of sediment and fuel varnish deposits that get drawn through your fuel filter and fuel injectors. Those deposits reduce injector spray pattern precision, which hurts combustion efficiency and increases carbon buildup on intake valves. One more reason Japanese owners never run the tank down. Keep it above a quarter, always. Secret 10. Driving habits. The maintenance you do every day. Everything on this list matters. But no fluid change or inspection schedule can fully overcome the damage done by poor driving habits. Japanese Toyota owners understand something most American drivers don't. How you drive is maintenance. The most damaging habit I see in American drivers is cold starts followed by immediate hard acceleration. When you first start your Toyota or Lexus, oil pressure takes 2 to 4 seconds to fully circulate to the top of the engine, to the valve train, camshafts, and upper cylinder walls. During those seconds, those surfaces are running with minimal lubrication. Give the engine 60 to 90 seconds to warm up before putting it under load. In cold weather, extend that to 2 minutes. The second damaging habit is aggressive braking followed by immediately parking the car. After highway driving or any sustained high-speed use, the turbochargers on turbocharged models and the brake rotors and pads need time to shed heat before the car sits still. Hard braking then immediately parking can warp rotors, and on turbocharged Lexus models, cause oil to coke in turbocharger bearings. Coast for the last half mile where possible. Let the car breathe before you shut it off. Third, and this one matters enormously on high-mileage vehicles, change your engine RPM periodically during highway drives. Running at a fixed engine speed for hours keeps the same surfaces under constant contact pressure. Vary your speed slightly on long trips. It distributes wear more evenly across cylinder walls and bearing surfaces. The cost breakdown. What this actually costs you. I want to put real numbers on this, because one of the biggest objections I hear from American Toyota owners is that following Japanese maintenance intervals is expensive. It isn't. Here's what following every secret on this list costs per year, assuming 15,000 miles annually on a Toyota Camry. Oil changes at 4,000-mile intervals, approximately 4 per year at $60 each equals $240. Compared to 2 changes at 7,500 miles equals $120. The difference is $120 per year. Transmission fluid at 30,000 miles, roughly $150 every 2 years equals $75 per year. Coolant flush at 50,000 miles, $100 every 3.3 years equals $30 per year. Brake fluid flush every 2 years, $80 every 2 years equals $40 per year. Air filter at 15,000 miles, $25 per year. Spark plugs at 60,000 miles, $80 every 4 years equals $20 per year. Total additional annual cost over American minimum maintenance, approximately $210 per year, $210 per year. That's the premium for Japanese maintenance discipline over American minimum cost maintenance. Compare that to what American minimum maintenance typically costs you. A transmission rebuild at 180,000 miles runs $2,500 to $3,500. A fuel pump replacement, $500. An engine replacement on a sludged-up motor, $4,000 to $6,000. $1 ABS modulator from brake fluid neglect, $1,200. The Japanese approach costs you $210 more per year. The American approach costs you thousands in repairs, spread unpredictably over the life of the car. The math isn't close. Harold's 731,000-mile Land Cruiser has never had a major mechanical repair. He spent more on maintenance than the bare minimum. He has spent almost nothing on repairs. The two facts are not a coincidence. These aren't complicated secrets. They're not expensive secrets. They're disciplined secrets. They require you to change your mindset from fix it when it breaks to prevent it from ever breaking. Japanese Toyota and Lexus owners don't have magical cars. They have the same engines, the same transmissions, the same cooling systems you have. What they have differently is a maintenance philosophy that treats every fluid change as an investment in the next 100,000 miles. If your Toyota or Lexus is already past 100,000 miles, start now. It's not too late. I've seen engines at 200,000 miles respond dramatically to a return to correct maintenance intervals. The engine doesn't know how old it is. It only knows what you put in it and how often. Follow these 10 secrets, do it consistently. And don't be surprised when your Toyota is still going strong at 500,000 miles while everyone around you is on their second or third car. I've seen it happen. I've seen it happen more than once. And with the right maintenance, there's no reason it can't happen to you.